How is everybody doing today? Hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me know in comments if you can hear me, because I was having some problems with my audio earlier today. So I want to make sure that you guys are able. Let me get the chat up and see if everyone can hear. Let's see, where is the chat? Yes, beautiful. I love it when a plan works the way it's supposed to work. All right, how is everybody doing today? Let me move you guys over here so I can see better. How's everybody doing on this Wednesday? This is our first week of chapter 3. Hopefully your chapter is starting off good. Let me also get it this way. All right. Hopefully everyone's chapter. Let me make sure I also can see your. Let me get the comments over here. So I got like 3 different screens, and I just want to make sure I can get it. And I did good this time. I did not fall before our session. So hopefully, all right, I can see everybody. Let me know in comments so I can welcome you all. Let me know where you are watching from, what you are drinking this afternoon. I am drinking a great green concoction to keep me hydrated, and I'm in the state of Georgia, Stockbridge, Georgia. So let me know and I can greet you all. I told myself this year I would do a better job of acknowledging those people that join us live. So let me know in comments where you are watching from and what you are drinking. Welcome, North Carolina. Carlotta, nice to have you on. Pam, nice to see you from McDonough, South Carolina. Sharita, nice to see you. South Jersey, green tea. Dottie, nice to see you. Look forward to our meeting later today. Tampa, Maria, nice to see you. Hot green tea. It is pretty cold here in Georgia today. I should have something hot.
Elizabeth, nice to have you. Nice to have you from England. Kent, I always love to be able to say that we've got people who are watching all over the world. So nice to have you as well. So listen, I never take lightly you taking time out of the middle of your day to join me live for our travel CEO session. So for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Sunday Gardner, and I help travel advisors build profitable and premium businesses that pay them what they're worth. If you're new here, welcome. This isn't going to be your typical industry type of session where I'm going to bore you with, don't get me wrong, supplier training and stuff that's going to talk all about supplier updates and destination features. We are here to break the rules, break industry rules, challenge outdated pricing models, and build a business and businesses for you that actually allow you to make money. So today, what I'm going to tell you is that we are going to focus on the thing that is draining your bank account and potentially your energy with discount clients. So how many of you guys are actually interacting with people who I would call budget seekers? I'm looking for the cheapest fill in the blank destination. How many of you guys are dealing with that in your interactions? Let me know in comments, or you have dealt with that in the past and frankly, you are pretty sick of it. Let me know. By the end of this session, it is my goal that you'll know exactly how to identify those clients up front and understand how they're costing you money so that you can gracefully exit out of the relationship. And most importantly, I want you to make sure that you start attracting the clients that will happily pay you your premium rates and for your expertise. All right, are you guys ready? Sick of it. You're sick of it. That's right. So the buck is going to stop here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with talking about the true cost of discount clients. Why they're attracted to your business, because you will find that you are really the reason for that. And we're going to talk about what is the exact framework for positioning yourself to attract the right type of client that you want to work with. And it is my hope that you want to attract high value clients instead of these discount seekers. Plus, I'm going to share with you a couple of my previous clients and one of my students specifically who completely transformed how they attracted their ideal client to their roster in less than 2 months. All right, so let's get started. Let me tell you, I'm actually going to start with something that's going to be a little bit controversial in terms of your thought processes. All of your clients don't deserve your time and expertise. How many of you guys believe that? Let me know in the comments. In fact, some of the clients that you are actively working on right now probably are hurting your business, right? They are, and you need to let them go. So you've got to release. So I always go off a little off script when I get in this because I get in the heat of the moment and I start thinking about like all the things that have happened to me personally as a travel advisor, as a travel coach. And what I want you to know is that it is okay to let go. If you want to call in something greater than what you've got, you're going to have to let go of the things that you currently have that are preventing that new energy to come in place. But what I want you to know is that this probably goes against what the industry is telling you. Sort of industry knowledge is that everyone is not your client, and that even though we are built around customer service and growing our business, I want you to hear me out here. Not everybody deserves to work with you. Not everybody deserves your genius, no matter, and in some cases, no matter what they say or what they want and what your desire to service them may be, they don't all deserve to work with you. But there is no such thing in my mind as a discount client. I'm going to say that again. There's no such thing as a discount client. They're only those advisors who create discount seeking behavior through their positioning and processes. And I'm going to let that sink in just a little bit, because it's not their fault that you allow yourself to work with them. It's your fault. And so I don't want this to be a blame game, but I want it to be really a wake-up call that you are in control. And I know that this is sort of a bold concept. I want to breathe for a second because I talk a little bit fast. I get really excited for these sessions. And I want you guys to let that sink in for a second. Like, discount seekers aren't going to change who they are. They're not going to magically be convinced to be something other than who they are. What you need to do is stop working with those people who aren't the type of people that you want to work with. Like, does that like click for everyone? By the end of today's session, I want you to know exactly what you may be inadvertently doing to attract these people to you, and focus on that, these people that focus on price instead of value. We want to change how we're showing up, the words, the language, the things that our site, everything that is about our business, so that we are inadvertently attracting discount discount seekers or shoppers or quote shoppers, people who are wanting to utilize your services for free and not get and not open up the pocketbook, so to speak. So we want to do that. So every time you take on a discount seeker, right, as a person who is a discount, and you know them, like first of all, do you even know the people when you interact with them? Like when you start talking to somebody who says that they want a quote from you, or they want to go to fill in the plate destination, do you have the red flags, or do you even see the writing on the wall before the writing is fully written on the wall? Like, do you even see that? And if you don't, that's also part of the problem that we want to solve today too. Let me ask you this before we continue. How many of you guys feel like you can tell before they even start if a person is a discount seeker or not? Like, how many of you feel like you can unequivocally tell if somebody is a discount seeker? Yes, you can tell, Dottie. I love it. Yes. Carlotta says yes. No, Carlotta says no, not always. Usually not until I start talking with them. Yes, you can. All right. So the red flags are showing up. And the question is like, so, I remember when I first started in sales, and, I had to transition from like thinking of myself in my business as a seller. Like, I never really thought of myself as a salesperson. I had this really negative connotation with sales. So I had all this baggage with sales that I had to get through, and I didn't know. So I hired a sales coach. And one of the things that I remember him telling me, his name is Mike Mark, really great guy out of Florida. And I remember him telling me early on is like, when you first start the conversation and you'd have these red flags that would pop up. I had a hard time like shutting it down. Like, do you see it? And then are you able to shut it down like after you notice it? Like me, it took, like, I would be like, I write my notes while I'm writing, and I like write this big X on the thing. And I couldn't break up. Like, I have a hard time breaking up with people generally, because I'm just not like, I still to this day don't really consider myself to be a salesperson. And so like, is that your story too? Like, you see them, but you still like continue the conversation because you're like, I don't want to seem rude. I don't want to stop. Like, and then you still like do the work. Like, you still continue the conversation. You still do all this stuff. But every time you do that, you're not just accepting less money for that booking, you're training your business to attract more of the same clients. Like, it's bigger than you just breaking up and stopping. You continue to let that energy and that space into your life. And what we want to do is we want to stop it. We want, particularly when we see, hear, feel those red flags, we want to break up immediately. We do not want to be in long-term relationships with people who are not like our perfect booze. Does that make sense? Like, I really want to make sure that that's you, because I struggled with that for a long time. Like, how many of you also feel like you struggle with that, like the breakup? Like, I'd get a red flag and somebody would be like, yeah, I'm not really ready, and I'd be like, and I'd still like 30 minutes in, I'm still talking to them on the discovery call. Like, I didn't cut it. Like, that was a big problem for me. And so if that's your story, there's a cost to that. You're filling your calendar. Like, so if you have a conversation with somebody in Messenger and they're not a good fit from the get-go and you get that red flag, that means they're on your calendar, filling up your books with low profit work. You know that this is going to turn into low profit, and you don't. You're blocking the space for premium clients, and we want to stop that. but why does this keep happening? Like, why do you keep doing it? Like, it took me forever. I literally am a writer. So like I do all these discovery calls. When I first started coaching you all, like I like would take copious notes. Like, so I have binders, like they sit right over here to the left. I have binders of conversations that I've had with travel advisors over the years, and travel advisors that have X on them in the conversation. But I wouldn't stop it. Like I would just keep doing it. I would work with travel clients and I would keep working with them, even though my gut told me no, all the things that I said no. And someone wrote, Carlotta says, I do sometimes because I don't want to lose the client. But the problem is that you are keeping on that dead weight and you need to. So this isn't just theory about it. You guys are feeling it too. And I'm going to give you an example of a client. I just gave an example of myself, but I had a client. Her name was Alex, and she came to me and she was frustrated with clients constantly comparing her rates to online booking sites. She thought she needed to find better clients. Like, how many of you guys feel like that? I just need to find better clients. Like it's the clients. I need to find better of them. And if I find better of them, that is going to just let me get better people and everything will be okay. How many of you feel like that's the problem? It's the people. Like, we just need to get more people. Like, because I felt like that, just like you did for many, many years. Like, it's just the people. If I get better people, everything will be fine. And so what I will tell you, it's the people. Tati, she's like, it's the people. Maria says, it's the people. Carlotta says, it's the people. And let me tell you, what Alex discovered is that she was creating her own problem. And so many of you are probably doing the same thing. Subtle signals in her messaging, even her consultation process was a part of the problem. But this is what I'm going to explain to you guys today, which I call the discount client paradox. She was able to turn this around in about 2 months after working with me. The real problem isn't the people, because they exist. They're not going to go away. The problem is that your current approach to attracting and creating them is what we need to change, right? The way that you bring in people into your world and how you interact with them is what we need to change. So until you stop and recognize that you're contributing to the cycle of this attraction, you'll keep working twice as hard for half the money while watching other advisors book high ticket trips with clients who never ask for discounts. So let's do our first poll. And I think I have it ready. So the first poll is, what percentage of your clients ask for discounts or price matching? How many of you guys, let's answer it, and then I will stop it once we get to about 50%. And I'm going to take a sip of my green tea. I wish it were tea. It's just green juice, a lot of vegetables. All right, we are almost at 50%. Perfect. We are right at 70%. Give you guys one more second to take the poll. And so I'm going to end the poll now. All right, we got right at 70%. 10 to 25% of you all are, let me share the results so you guys can see that. 10 to 25% over 33% of you all said 10 to 25% of the clients that you guys are working with are asking for discounts. The very close second is 26 to 50% of the people that you are working with are asking for discounts or price matching. If that is your reality, we need to change that. Like, we need to absolutely change that. And so here's an example of how I've worked with the client. Her name is Michelle. She was working about 15 hours. So last week we talked about like how many hours are you working to make your money? And excuse me. So she was working about 15 hours designing a trip. And so the trip that the example I'm going to talk to you about is she was doing a 10-day getaway to Italy. And so she did this is kind of the setup for her. She She's an experienced, she specializes in Europe. She specialized in Italian vacations, and her client asked for a 10-day trip. And so she spent about 15 hours designing that itinerary. It included wine tours, private tours, wine tasting, private tours, boutique accommodations. And she had this packaged at about $7,800. Given the amount of days and all the stuff that was included, that's what she did. Her client comes back to her and says, can you find something cheaper? I saw a similar package online for $5,500. And based on what you guys just told me, a majority of you all are experiencing the same thing. Client comes back to her and says, oh, I found a package for $5,500. So what Michelle did is she spent an additional 8 hours revising and cutting the cost and trying to get under the quote, or at least, reducing her price. And she ultimately reduced her price to about $6,200. Now, the kicker is that, not only did she spend an additional 8 hours doing that, her commission was now only at about $700. She spent about 23 hours worth of work. Now, if you guys are designing these sort of high-end luxury trips, you may be spending equivalent amount of time. You come back, this is $28 per hour. When you take the number of hours that she worked and what her commission check was, it's about $28 per hour. So last week we talked about kind of how much are you making an hour? Like, are you pricing yourself to really be at the rate that you want? And so what happened to Michelle's booking, right? She spent all this time. Now mind you, she hasn't even collected the money. This is potential if the client says yes, and she's already invested all of this time. 2 weeks later, multiple change requests. This client has asked for, I need you to change this, I need you to change that. She complains about the hotel room size, but had the client kept the original recommendation that Michelle put together, everything would have been fine. So she's spending more time going through the change requests, managing the problems, and finally, after all of that, her rate now drops to about $20 an hour because after the additional work that she has to do. How many of you guys are experiencing this story? Like, I mean, I got countless stories like this. How many of you guys are experiencing this in the way that you are designing trips, the way that you are interacting with your clients, right? How many of you guys are, this is your life? Like, this is what you guys are dealing. Alicia's like, heck no, I don't do that, right? So hopefully you've got a process that nips all of that in the bud. But, Maria says, sometimes you're experiencing this, right? And so here's another example of how it could be in your life is that you have the same type of trip, right? This is your specialty. This is the destination that you love doing. This is what your signature destinations are coming at. But you price your trip, let's say it's at $1,100, right? You spend 6 hours doing the put together for that trip. Because again, it's your signature destination. You know it well. Commission, you know that your commission based on that price point is going to be about $2,500. Hourly rate for your 6 hours turns out to be $500. What's the difference in these two advisors? What do you think the difference is? What do you guys think that the difference is between the two advisors and why one advisor is spending hours do it now? And again, I'm going to assume what I want you guys to do is I want you to assume that the experience level is the same. Both advisors know the destination well. It's not because they don't have the experience. It's something else. What do you guys think that the difference is? All right. Let me know in comments. Like, what do you think the difference is that these advisors are having? One's charging higher, spending less money, making more money. The other one isn't making as much money, spending hours going back and forth with the client. What do you think that is? Many of you guys are not responding. I'm going to give you the answer. Premium advisor, right? I think it's first posture. Margot, you hit it right there on the nail, right? Premium advisor, advisor two, positioned herself to attract the kind of client who values expertise over price. There's no price objections because they already understand what they're dealing with in the advisor. There's no excessive revisions because again, the advisor has set the expectation. There's no post-booking drama. So once the client gets on site, unless something catastrophic happens, the the client is happy with what goes on. Again, now catastrophe happens on trips all the time, but understanding what the process is going in is really going to be the difference. So here, the first example, she came frustrated. The first advisor, she's frustrated with the client. She's making less money, and she's still not getting what she wants out of the process, right? She wants to be able to deliver trips in the destination that she wants, and works with clients that value her thing, and be able to do it in a time frame that allows her to take on as many clients as she wants and still deliver the service without a bunch of headache. How many of you guys have had clients that you work with them, you got the spidey sense before you worked with them, like you wrote the X, you took the client on, and you're like, man, I knew better, right? How many of you guys have had that? And then you look at your commission, you look at your margin, and you're like, geez Louise, this was so not worth it. Like, there was no part of this that was worth it. It has happened to me on many occasions, and I'm going to tell you, every single time it happens to me, I call it the Holy Ghost. The spirit in me had told me, don't do it. Like, don't do it. And I ignore it because of the very same reason somebody just wrote, I didn't want to lose the client. So I end up spending all this extra time that I didn't get paid for working with the client that wasn't my ideal client, hemming up my time, my energy, and frankly, the spirit, and when I say energy, I'm talking about the good spirit, because it takes a lot out of you to work with bad clients, right? Particularly when you have a frown on your face, when you're not charging, and there's a smile on the charge that you do. Does that make sense? Like, I want you guys to see that there's so much at stake with you continuing to work with these type of clients. So here's the reality. Most industry experts won't tell you discount clients aren't just paying you less, they're costing you more. That's a fact. We just talked about that. They require more time. They require more revisions. They require more justification of your value. And they're more likely to have issues during travel. One, because they probably don't read they don't read the stuff that you get. They're just bad all around. I'm not even gonna lie. They're just bad all around. So it's not the fact. So yeah, you get a client in your pocket, but they are so much more work. Marie says they are so much more work. I mean, literally out of Marie's mouth, that's exactly the truth. They require so much. They literally are more expensive because the opportunity cost that you have given up is massive. Every hour you spend chasing a discount client down is an hour you're not spending attracting and servicing a premium client who will pay you 3 to 5 times more for the same work. Like, I want that to sink in. So the fear of losing a client is allowing you to lose your potential other clients that won't fight you if you just make the shit. Like, you guys ever heard of woosah? Like, you got to just woosah them out of your life. Like, that is it. So Michelle's story, she shows you the difference between struggling client. You guys have your own examples that you can call on to see how this is how this has worked for you. The good news is that there is a solution that's entirely within your control. You control who you work with as you control your price. So let's break down exactly how you can do that inside of your travel business by using 3 frameworks that we're going to go over today. And so let's start with the first one. All right. The first one we talked a little bit about, it's called the discount client paradox, right? This is your big aha moment that I want you guys to have in this session. This is where you need to change pretty much. When my students do this, they stop thinking of themselves, they stop thinking of the client and external force as the problem, and they look at what they can do. And so here is what that discount client paradox is. Conventional wisdom is going to tell you that, listen, that clients are just bargain hunters by nature. That's completely backwards. The truth is your messaging, your consultation process, and even how you present your services are actively training clients to focus on price instead of value, right? I want that to just sit with you for a second, right? The things that you are doing and the way that you show up is training people that see you, read your stuff, hear you on your lives, watch your videos, do everything, is training them to focus on price instead of value. And so here's the aha moment that I want you to, isn't that you are attracting the wrong, you've got to realize that you're it's not that you're attracting the wrong clients, you're inadvertently creating them through these three mistakes. I want, like, do you guys get that? The first mistake is how the way you position yourself as a deal finder. Like, how many of you all have language right now on your sites, in your social media posts that says you've got the best rates, you have affordable luxury or affordable fill in the blank? How many of you guys are using that language in any of your content right now? How many of you guys? And I literally, when having interviewed hundreds of travel advisors, when I ask them what their vision is, they'll say, I want to be affordable. I want to offer, I want to create, like, the vision for their business is I want travel to be accessible to everyone. And the reality is, if you want high ticket clients, it's not accessible to everyone. So your language needs to change. I don't use so good, you don't use cheap, and you don't use deal. Second, in evaluating where you are you leading your consultation with itinerary details and logistics? All right, instead of what your experience will do for your client. So the travel experience that you create should have an end result, and it's not about the itinerary, day 1, day 2, like, here's what I'm going to do day 1, here's what you're going to do day 2, 3, 4, and 5. Are you leading with the logistics and all of the boring I and T crossing stuff? Or are you really talking about the experience that they're going to get on the journey that you're about to send them with? Right? That is the key. We are logistics people. We are responsible for dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and making sure that everything lines up. But we certainly don't want to lead with that in our consultations. The third thing that is an opportunity for improvement is that you're responding to price objections by immediately looking for ways to reduce the cost. I'm going to let that sit for a while. So somebody says, this is too expensive, or fill in the blank, I found this at this, or is it really going to be, right? They furrow their nose, they furrow their brow, and they're like, does it really need to cost this much? This is really above the budget. And so you immediately start justifying what you've done on ways to cut it, right? Like, that is one of the things. So that's the client paradox. So once you understand that that you're creating your own discount clients, that allows you to change, because again, it's something that you can control. This isn't about finding different clients, it's about showing up differently so that clients respond differently. So if the language that you're using in all of the way that you talk publicly is discount language, right? We want to change that. If your process is a discount, like you're setting things up to focus on discount instead of experience, right? And you're focused on the transaction as opposed to the experience you're going to create, that is also a reason why you're getting this back. So Marie says, I'm guilty of offering to shorten the trip or ask what they want to take out. And the reality is if they ask for something, unless they want it entirely different, you deliver what they want, right? They want to strip things down. And what I would ask Marie is that if you doing that, does that successfully close the deal for you? If it's not successfully closing the deal, then we absolutely want to look at an alternative way to introduce what you're bringing to the table in your consultations, such that your clients aren't looking to try and strip down cost. Point number 2 is, this is the second area that I want you to think about, which is value first reversal. This is really about flipping the script completely in terms of how you explain your value to your client. It's about changing when and how you establish the value in the first place. So from the first interaction with you, there should be no question about what it is that they're going to get, right? You aren't handling a transaction, because frankly, if they needed a transaction, they could let their fingers do the walking on Google, ChatGPT, Expedia.com, go to the hotel themselves. There's all of these other places where transactions occur, and it shouldn't be with you. And you should not be positioning yourself to facilitate only transactions, right? And if you are, that also puts you at a disadvantage for high ticket sales. Does that make sense? Right? So what I call this is the value first reversal. And so here's how it works. You know, when you meet with somebody, the first thing you ask is, where do you want to go? You throw together an itinerary, you present the price, and you spend forever justifying why it costs what it does, right? That's the typical familiar kind of flow for you all. Is that typical for you all? Like, where do you want to go? Maybe you've got a form and you're asking them, where do you want to go? What's your budget? You know, what kind of stuff do you want to do? Like, do you guys feel like, is that familiar to you? Yeah. Yes, perfect. So this is also training your clients to focus on price. Because by the time you get to value, it's the afterthought. It isn't the first thought, right? It isn't the first, what are you going to do for me, and how you position them to address the reason why they're going on the trip, and how you can uniquely help them better than anything that they could do themselves, and frankly, or any other advisor that they would work in the space, right? So we want to lead with value. And so by the time you get to the value conversation, they're already thinking about their budget, right? Like, you want to flip that. You want them thinking about, oh my God, that's what I want out of life. I want these things. I want this type of experience. Money is not the issue, because frankly, travel is a luxury in and of itself. Unless it's a business trip, people go on vacation, not because, I mean, if you ask me, I think everybody has to travel, but really, right? Like, you got to breathe air, you got to drink water, right? You got to eat food. Do you got to travel? It's a decision. It's not a necessity. You know, I'm absolutely the wrong person to say that travel is not a necessity, because I do think travel is a necessity. But you understand what I'm saying? We don't want to position it as like, you know, here you can have it and anybody can have all these amazing experiences. I'm going to create this wonderful experience on pennies on the dollar. No, you want this transformational travel experience that's a legacy reminder for your family, right? This is the best girl trips that your girls, and they'll be talking about this for years. That comes at a cost, right? And it's your responsibility to let people know that this is, you know, amazingness is not free, right? Like, ask anybody. So here's how you flip the script. I'm gonna give you 3 steps on how to do that. Ask questions that reveal if they value experiences over price, right? Lead with those questions in your discovery call, right? Where do you want to go? So instead of saying, where do you want to go? What's been your most memorable travel experience so far? That's the kind of question. So then if they say, well, I've never traveled before, then, you know, talk about what do they want the memorable experience to be, right? If they say, oh, I went to Barcelona, and I remember, like, when I ask this question, you know, the amount of, like, I can see, like, literally, because I do all of my videos, do them on camera, so I can see their body language. I can see their facial expressions. I can see if they're lit up or they're not, you know, they're frowning and all of that. And so when you ask this question, you're going to be able to get a response from them that's going to allow them to have a conversation in their head. So if you guys remember last week's conversation, I said the stuff that you do needs to start them talking in their head about something. So when you ask them about this memorable travel experience that they've had so far, you want them to be going back and thinking about, oh, I remember when I did this, right? That's going to get them off a price, because they're not thinking about the fact that it cost them, you know, $24, $24.99 or whatever. They're thinking about how they felt. What, you know, another question that you can ask is, what would make this trip absolutely amazing for you, right? This forces the conversation into what are their requirements for amazing, right? This forces them to think deeper. Now, if you get clients, and this is where a red flag comes in for you. It's so funny. Like, I like sit and then I start like fidgeting because my back is hurting. If you get clients who like give you half-ass responses to these questions, that's a red flag, right? You get clients who don't really want to answer the question and give you like surface level responses. That's a red flag, right? When I get people who aren't willing to engage in a conversation with me, that tells me that they're most likely going to be difficult to work with because they're not going to give me requirements. They have all these expectations in their head and they're not able to articulate. So how can I design a trip? How can I fulfill requirements if you can't even articulate them? It's not your job to try and figure out and match nothing to amazingness. It's your job to get them to tell you what they want in a meaningful way that connects to really the emotion of what they want to achieve, right? People, when they go on trips, they don't just want to go. I mean, sometimes you just want to get away. You want to go to a hotel and you do a staycation, but you want, and most of the people that you're working with have the money. Right? They have the money to spend on whatever experience is in their head, whatever that may be. It's your job to identify what that is so that you can match it, so that you can get them to spend the money to get the experience that they want, right? But it's not your job to try and magically, guess what it is. That is the purpose of the discovery call, right? So you understand when I talk about the consultation process, if you aren't doing that in your consultation, it's going to be really hard for you to match and create and design something that really is going to match it, that isn't going to be focused on price. Right away, you can tell, like when you're having this conversation with them, you can tell if they light up, like if their face lights up, like if they're like their whole body language changes when they start talking about this experience that they've had in the past, or if they talk about why they want to have the experience that they're procuring you for, right? This is probably one of the most invaluable pieces of information that you're going to get from your discovery calls, right? When they're talking, they're not talking from a price perspective. They're not talking about their past experience about like, oh, it only cost me this amount, right? And if they are, that's a red flag for you as well, right? Yeah, I went to Barcelona for 10 days and it only cost me, $7.99. And that was the highlight of my trip. That clearly is going to tell you what kind of client that is, right? So step number 2 is, that would scare me, right? that would scare me if they said Barcelona $7.99, but it'll be amazing. Like so the reason I introduced like a survey, a trip for fit clients, and I do the survey the way that I do is because it immediately tells me if there's a mismatch in number, in money, and destination, right? But the conversation, when I see that, so let's say somebody says, and I always use this as an example, somebody says that I want to go to what's the place with the hotels in the middle of the ocean? What is that place? It's on the tip of my tongue. Starts with a T. Come on, travel advisors. The Maldives, right? Maldives. The other one that starts with a T. Tahiti, right? Tahiti, the Maldives. And somebody says, I want to go to Tahiti, and I only have a budget of like $2,000 per person. I've had people like put on their thing, I want to go to Tahiti and I want to spend $3,000. Hell, the flight alone is $3,000. So when I have that conversation with them, it starts off with, what is the kind of experience that you want, right? And I already know that there's a mismatch between the experience and what they're willing to spend. So I already know the airfare alone is $2,000, right? So the way that I evaluate the results of the trip request is evaluating, are these guys budget shoppers or not, right? So when I'm having the conversation, we're having these kinds of money conversations. So step 2, and this is what I just said, step 2 is talk money early, but frame it around experiences. So that example that I just gave, if somebody says Tahiti and their budget in the form says 2,500, there's a mismatch. We're hitting that in the bud in the beginning. I'm not like having a 30, 50-minute conversation with them and then I talk about price at the end. We're talking early about, based on what you're describing, this kind of experience, what do you think that what do you think that it would take to deliver this? Like, we are not like, I always like to tell a story, my story, and kind of where I come from, because I didn't come out of here, I didn't come here with all of the strength that I have now in terms of my ability to position myself, my ability to hold a conversation strong. It took a lot of no's. It took a lot of like slaps in the face. And so hopefully these types of conversations will allow you to be a little bit, if not a lot more bold in what you bring to the table so that you can have these money conversations. I had a huge issue with money when I first started in the space. I was scared to death to have a conversation about money because I didn't want to scare people away. And frankly, that's what you want to do. You want to scare them away or slap them into reality based on the conversation. I literally remember I was planning a trip to Hawaii. And this is for a family member years ago, and they wanted to travel to Hawaii during Christmas. And they weren't coming out of a major hub. And their budget was some ridiculously low budget, right? During Christmas holiday, no doubt. And out the gate. And so before we even started, I was like, Roger, there's no way that, Hawaii is going to be this amount. You're talking about the busiest season of the year. And frankly, one of the most expensive destinations to go to. And you got all of these hops you got to do from point A to point B. That conversation was held. So before I even continued, before I even got over the phone, I was like, here's what you're looking at, right? What do you think? Like, do you want to change the destination? Do you want to do? So before we even got into that mix and me doing too much, I already knew the destination and it wasn't aligned. So it was based on, what do you want for your experience? What are you willing to pay? If there's a mismatch, I'm not going to waste my time, right? The red flag is there. I already know, right? These conversations you need to have early in the conversation. If you're texting with somebody, don't be so quick to just send them to your profile. Ask a little bit of clarifying questions, right? In terms of gauging. One of the clarifying questions you can ask if somebody texts you is, when are you looking to make the decision on your trip? Oh, I'm looking to do it next month. That tells you that anything that you do right now is going to be premature because they're not even ready to pull the trigger, right? Money conversations sooner than later. Number 3, share a quick story that shows your expertise without bragging. I'm okay with a little bit of bragging as long as you keep the client in mind. Meaning, these stories that you tell, you guys are the bomb.com. You've worked with clients. And even for those that are watching that are new and haven't worked with clients, you still are the bomb.com. You'll become the bomb.com relative to travel, but your ability and your desire to do this is strong. What you want to do is demonstrate how you've done it for other clients. So I always weave in a story. I always weave in, I've worked with a client who's had a similar experience that you've done. This is what we've done. This is how we've structured it. And based on what you're telling me, I believe that this would be a similar path, or here's how I would change that for you based on what you want, right? When you know what you're describing, when you tell somebody that and you can relate to what they're describing and you've already handled a scenario like this, it immediately positions you as an authority. And that's what you want in these calls. That's what you want in these conversations with people is that they want to hear and see that you know your stuff. Does that make sense? And so what I know about travel advisors is they are not braggers. Like, you guys like to get the requirements and then like go away in your hole and then like design these amazing things and go, ha, ta-da, here it is. Like, don't you like it? Swipe your credit card and do that, right? And so the reality is, before you get there, before you even get to letting your fingers do the walking, you let your mouth do the talking about how amazing you are in the ability to deliver what they want based on the experiences that you've had with other clients and how you can bridge that for them. Hopefully that makes sense for everybody. Let me know in comments, is this clicking with you? Step 4 is, before you spend 1 hour doing detail designing, doing any trip planning, get clarity on the direction. I got advisors that do you know, 3 or 4 different iterations, multiple destinations. Like, you need to like nail all that out before you get off the call, right? Like, I'm nailing down the fact that you're paying me for the service and you're clear on the direction that I'm going to go, right? I'm seeing 2 ways. I'm going to let them say, here's 2 ways that we can approach this, right? And I want you to make a decision. I want a decision made by the end of the call, because I'm not going to go waste and go and do 2, 3 different, like, you know, hours worth of work on 2 or 3 different iterations of designs for somebody, right? I want to know, what did you decide? And if a person can't decide, that's a red flag as well. Is there's I'm going to give you a quick little example of indecision and how it costs you, right? So I remember when I was early in my career, you know, this is when I first started charging. I charged $50, and I had it was a friend of a friend, and she wanted to do a wedding destination. And I was armpit sweating. I was like, $50. I was like, by golly, I'm charging for my services. I charged her $50, you know, 7 or 8 iterations later, right? And mind you, hours worth of work, doing quotes, picking resorts for this getaway wedding. 7 iterations later, she didn't book, right? They ended up eloping at the local courthouse. And I was like, what? Like, she's like, I don't really know where I want to go. I don't really want to know where I want, you know, I know I want to do somewhere in the Caribbean. I think I want to do Mexico. I think I want to do Jamaica. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I didn't force a decision. I didn't even have any parameters around my itineraries by then. So it was like, literally, we went back 7 or 6 times on this, multiple quotes to her, and she still didn't book, right? And I made $50. So I made $50, but based on the number of hours, I made less than $10 an hour. It was like maybe a couple of dollars an hour with the amount of work that I worked on, right? And so set expectations. What I want you to do is I want you to make sure that the decisions that need to be made are made. So when you get to your follow-up, when you get to the presentation stage of it, they already know what they're going to expect. They're going to get, you know, a realization of the decisions that they made. And if there's any clarity that needs to make, that is the purpose of your call. Make sure. Now, if you don't know and you need to have another follow-up call, set that as the expectation as well. Do not get in the habit of leaving things open-ended on your calls. All right. And so I've got clients that, you know, specifically that have used this approach. And then what has happened is that, like, this big aha moment is coming, is that clients, once you do this and you set the expectation up front in the call, you force the decisions to be made as early as possible. Your clients stop coming back questioning your prices. They stop questioning the booking rate, right? They stop questioning, well, this or that, right? The problem is set it up front. Now, my background is in IT. My background is in requirements gathering. I can do this in the back of my hand, but, you know, my background is that. But when I applied it I didn't think to apply this to the way that I handled my discovery process. And I will tell you, I now think of this just the same way as I do software development. When you are sitting down with your clients, ladies and gentlemen, you are sitting down to identify requirements, ensure that they understand your expertise, and that you get as many decisions as possibly possible made, or any barriers to those decisions identified in that call. Let me know in comments if that is clicking with you all. All right, last point in terms of this is premium client filter. This is a lot in an hour, so I may go a little bit over, so hopefully you guys can stick with me. The premium client filter. This is your implementation framework. You know, once you reverse the approach, right? You stop attracting on the front end. When you're talking to them, you're making them decide, you're identifying your red flags. Once you reverse this approach, what you need is a system to consistently attract these clients. You need a filter to filter out the bad ones and make sure that you're able to get the great ones here. So what you've got to have, number one, is create a pre-qualification process. How many of you all have that? That naturally deters price-focused clients. That's what we want. So this is called a premium client filter. First part of this filter is a qualification process that naturally deters price-focused clients. This isn't about being exclusive only, although I do like having a sense of exclusivity here, but this is about being clear. On your website, on your inquiry form, your language needs to have our signature journey typically begins with X dollars. So whatever that average ticket price that you need to be clear on your site about that. Like there should be no ambiguity there. There should be nothing there that like people are like, well, I really want a $500 trip, but I see her site says $3,500. If that is what your average ticket price, your site needs to reflect that. You need to include that you have a comprehensive planning process. This one line immediately will filter out people who are not aligned with that value. All right, I'm not sharing anything. I think somebody asked that. I'm just talking to you all. So there's not anything sharing. I've got notes that I'm just making sure that I do not forget my points. So language on your website, language on your, frankly, on your website, on any place that you talk about your services, they need to talk about what the starting price expectations are. All right. The second one is implement what I call the reverse budget conversation. Instead of asking what's your budget, which immediately makes somebody think about price, I want you to be focused on what experiences are most important for you on the journey, right? Make that to be an open-ended question. So budget is important, but I want you to understand what are the experiences. So budget should be at the end, lead with experiences on your form, on your site, whatever. And then I want you, when you're talking to your people, is when you've traveled at this level before, what was the investment range that felt appropriate? Right? Put the onus on them to connect experience to the dollar. Maria says you don't currently have any prices, but you certainly have a price in your head. You certainly have an expectation on the type of trips that you want to sell. If you want, so this again is going to require you guys to step out on faith in terms of, again, you're not saying that this particular trip is going to be $10,000, but you can start to set the expectation on what a typical trip and what your process, what it's going to cost a person. This subtle shift that you guys make is going to really start to shift the narrative from price to experience, particularly the second one. And the last thing that we're going to talk about is this premium choice framework, which is really around presenting options. Never present just one option of price point. So when I talk about presenting option, I'm not talking about multiple destinations. I'm talking about creating a tiered option that looks similar to this, right? First one, the signature experience. That's going to be your standard value stack premium offer that's going to have fill in the blank, whatever your value stack is. That's going to be whatever the price. So let's say that that's $5,500. Then you're going to have an elevated experience that's going to be 15 to 20% higher than that. That's going to add a bit additional exclusivity to you. Third option is going to be the ultimate experience, which is going to be 30 to 40% higher than your mid-tier. And that is going to have high-end VIP elements to it. It's the same offer that has additional elements to it and gives people a choice. It should never be below your average ticket price. If you want to be selling pricing at X number, your 3 tiers needs to eliminate anybody who isn't at that level, right? If you want to make a certain amount, establish what that level is, and then you create a tiered based on the exclusivity of the offers that you create, a VIP, because you'll be surprised. Some percentage of the people are going to take that VIP, right? That some percentage of the people are going to take the mid-tier, and some percentage of the people are going to take the level. Again, I want you to think about your margins and how much money you want to be making on your deals. Create a structure that allows you to make as much money as possible based on the way that you present. This approach is going to eliminate the yes/no decision about price and replaces it with choice between good, better, and best. Remarkably, when I have clients do this, they do see, they're surprised by the people who take the mid and higher offer. They think, oh, everyone's just going to take the lower offer. Create the opportunity for people to buy higher end offers by doing that as a part of your process. All right. we are running out of time. I did a lot, so I'm just going to handle a couple of objections and then open it up for questions. So some of the things that these are some very specific things that you guys may be feeling, or I've seen in the past is I need to build my business first. I can't afford to turn away clients. How many of you guys feel like that out there? And most of those that feel like they're the standard advice that people get is that you can't afford to take on discount clients. Like that's what I want you to walk away with today is if you feel like you don't have the experience, it's your responsibility to get it, because every discount client is going to block your space for a premium client and trains your business. It trains you. It trains the business to attract price shoppers, right? So you start accepting one, you look up, you've accepted 10. You keep yourself in this grind that allows you not to really attract high-end clients. All right, number 2 objection I typically get from people is the market is too sensitive to price, right? People in my area won't pay premium price. And so my response to this is simple. This is a limiting belief that you have. There are billions of people on Facebook every month, just on that platform alone. Your market is bigger than you think. And so that is a limitation that you've put on yourself. I often get advisors tell me too that my people, they won't pay this rate. And really, the reality is that you feel some kind of way about what you're willing to pay. That is a block that you have to get over. Get out of people's pockets. That's what I always tell my students. Get out of their pockets. Don't tell people what they are willing or not willing to pay. What your responsibility is to show up with your A game, create amazing value for people, and give people the option. If they say no, that's great. That does not mean you need to work with them. All right. And then the last one that we have time for is last common objection is I don't want to come across as elitist or too exclusive. And let me just say this. There is a huge difference between being elitist and being clear about who you serve, right? Not everybody can afford you. Not everybody can afford me, right? As a private coach, if I'm offering private coaching service, not everybody can afford that. And so not everybody can work with you. Not everybody should be working with you. Just because they are in the situation that you are in, that has nothing to do with you, right? What I will tell you is not everybody can afford a specialist. Not everybody can afford a specialist for a particular service. You are a specialist. So just because they can't afford it doesn't mean that you need to start giving your services away for free. All right, I'm going to open it up for questions. And as you guys are writing your questions, I'm going to answer some questions that are typical questions that I get when we have these conversations. If you have any questions that you want, I will take them on. I'll probably go about 5 minutes over. So if you guys like to hang with me, I'll take on these questions. One of the major questions that I get is how do I transition, right, from existing discount clients to high-end clients without burning any bridges? That's a common question that I get from advisors. And this is really about you creating an evolution of professionalism and creating an evolution of your business. So the idea is that you don't want to just cut everybody cold turkey. What I want you to do is start with announcing your changes in your business. Share a post that share that your business model is evolving to provide more specialized services, and then introduce your new structure. You're moving forward. I'm implementing a new service model that includes premium X service, right? You want to make sure that you give opportunities for people who are already in your existing market to opt into these services. It doesn't mean that they will all take it, but some portion of the people that you have may. If you find nobody does, then it's probably a clear indication that your market, the people that are currently in your list or currently in your group or in you, aren't the kind of clients. And that means that you need a lead gen situation that's going to get the right people. This isn't personal. right? It's professional growth. This is about your business and where you want to take it. The best clients will either evolve with you or they will respectfully bow out. And that is what you need to let them do. Number two common question that I get is, what if I'm just starting out and I need to build a portfolio before I can be selective? This is the biggest mistake that you can make, is waiting to do this. Start now. Don't start later. Start now, shifting, making the shift in your services. If you're brand new and you don't know, start now with premium. If you know that you want to be a high ticket travel seller, start now. Starting with discount clients doesn't build a portfolio. It builds the wrong portfolio. So what you ultimately have is a bunch of repeat business that's making you low business, that's keeping you hemmed up so that you can't service the clients that you want to service. So if you want premium clients, ladies and gentlemen, you need to position them from day one. Your process needs to look like that. Your site, your language, the way you show up, everything needs to be premium. So don't start off with discounts. All right, last question I'm going to do. I don't see any questions in the chat box. Is how do I know if a potential client is a discount seeker before I invest time for them? This is why you need a qualification process. You need a pre-qualification that allows you to see the red flags. Create a consultation questionnaire that includes budget questions and expectations. So those questions that I asked or mentioned above, like what is the, what's the experience that you looked at? Have you been on an experience like this in the past? Typically, what was that worth to you? Listen for phrases on like, I'm flexible on everything except budget, right? I'm looking for the best deal. Pay attention to how they value your time, right? When you do that, these are all red flags. You get somebody who shows up late to your discovery call. That's a red flag. Somebody who ghosts you on a discovery, doesn't even show up or keeps rescheduling. That's a red flag. Pay attention to those red flags. Do not, like, I know when you, particularly if you're like, I need this money, I need these clients, you end up allowing yourself to settle when you ignore the red flags and you push forward. I promise you, there is not one time I pushed forward with the client that I had a red flag that I was like, I was wrong. Like, I'm telling you, that spirit in me is never wrong. Like, and I just ignore it. So I'm wrong for ignoring it. All right. So here's your challenge for the week. I had some more questions, but this was a really good topic. Here's your challenge for the week. So this week's challenge is I want you guys to do a premium positioning audit for your business. This is going to be a quick exercise that I want you to do. I want you to identify exactly where in your online presence you might be attracting the discount seeker, right? Instead of premium one. So here are the steps. I will also post this inside of our CEO network. So you'll want to head there to get these steps. I'll have them written out for you. But step one, I want you to pull up your website or your social media profile right now. Take a screenshot of it, of your homepage and your Instagram and or Facebook bio. Number two, I want you to highlight any language in any of those areas, your homepage, your bio, that mention price, deals, or being affordable. Circle phrases that say best rates, affordable luxury, or budget-friendly options. Anything that you believe would attract discount seekers, right? I want you to circle that. And then number three, now I want you to identify what's missing. Do you clearly state minimum investment level? Is your unique approach obvious within 5 seconds of them seeing your bio or seeing your homepage? Does your site pre-qualify clients or invite everyone? Because frankly, we don't want everybody clicking the book now button or submit a request now. And then the last thing I want you to do is create one simple pre-qualification statement. Now that's a lot. So that's 4 steps. I'm going to post them inside of the CEO network. If you are not a part of our community, you're going to want to join, and it's onlinetravelboss.com/CEO network. And that is inside, that's our community of other travel CEO networks. I'll post this challenge here. I want you to share, if you'd like to, share your screenshot, your statement, tag my name on it, and I will give you exact feedback. That is your challenge for the week. All right. So Today's session, did it resonate with you? Are you guys feeling like you are clear and ready to elevate your client base? Like, how many of you guys are feeling empowered after today's session? Do you now know the difference between a discount seeker, what you may be doing to attract them, what you can do to change them? How are you guys feeling about that? Because really, as long as you can take control of what you can control, then you have the ability to change it, right? We can't change the mindset of everybody out there, right? A lot of advisors think, well, I just need to change the people. Let the discount seekers be the discount seekers. Let them do them, right? We need to attract the right type of people that will allow us to do us, right? And so if you haven't already gotten our magnetic niche workbook and you don't know who your client is, that's a $3 workbook that really helps you start to identify who your ideal client is. You'll, awesome, Dottie. Dottie says, this is awesome. This is the kind of information I need to push me forward. You are so welcome. I do. I'm very challenged. Awesome, Latoya. The community name, Alicia, is CEO Network. To get there, it's onlinetravelboss.com/CEO Network, and that will take you directly into our community. And so within about an hour or two, I've got a meeting. I will post the challenge there, and I really do challenge you all to make this switch in the language that you're using and stop. For heaven's sake, stop working with discount people, particularly if that's not. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, if you were listening to this and you're like, but I like them people. I want to work with discount seekers and I want to be everybody, right? You know, whole different model. I say, if you want to work with discount seekers, don't have discovery calls. Create a membership site, travel membership, and then get as many members and then pour into the membership. It's a totally different model in your business based on the type of client you work with. Every time I ask this question, you guys say you want to be high ticket sales. That requires a high ticket process. And so that is what we want to do. So next week, we're going to have a survey. So after the conclusion of this, I'd love for you to fill out the survey. Next week, let's see, what is next week? I always like to say, what are we doing next week? All right, so... All right, next week, we are going to be talking about, before I go to next week, I want to just make sure there are no questions. I need the link to the workbook. Elizabeth, the workbook, which workbook are you referring to? Alicia answered your community name. All right, no other questions. All right, so language is a big thing. When I post the workbook, I've got a little questionnaire that you can fill out in terms of your premium positioning. You know, I hope at the end of today's session, you walked away with, I'm in control. Like that's really the message that I wanted you guys to work with. It's you that can change the script on how you attract the people that you attract. If you change, you will see a change. And so if you don't know how to you don't know what language you should be using on your site, you don't know what client you are really working with, you may want to take advantage of the offer that we had last week where we talked about, I think we've got like 3 spots left of our website projects where we are helping you create a persona for your business and then building a website around that persona that's really built to help you attract clients. If you are interested in that, type website. I will reach out to you all after this call. Type website, reach out to you via text or email based on what is on file with us. Next week, we are going to be talking about scaling without burnout, the real way to grow your travel business. We'll uncover why adding more clients often leads to less profit, and I'll show you how to build systems that let you scale your income without more hours in your day. All right, ladies, I am sorry I went over, but there was a lot to unpack today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Fill out the survey. I'd love to read your comments and see how things are going. If you have any questions, join me inside of CEO Network, and I will see you all next week. Have a great day.